Okay, I'm back. There was a few gremlins with the stream. I think something was downloaded in the background. we're all good now. So yeah, what I was saying is we're not going to look at a complete beginner topic here. This is a slightly advanced topic. It's nothing to do. I mean, it's not something you want to really get too involved with if you don't know anything about game development at all. This last one, this script here that we're looking at, this is for beginners. And to be honest, a lot of it's nonsense. I mean, it's not nonsense, but there's better ways to achieve the same thing. But what we've basically done is we've just grabbed two values from the input mechanism that's already part of Unity, and we've used that to apply a force of and also a rotation to our character and his rigid body. Without a rigid body, physics cannot occur in the Unity game engine. Still dropping frames, this is quite worrying. Wasn't dropping frames yesterday with these settings, so I don't know why, but I don't know. Can't figure it out. Anyway, so that's our movement script for an FPS player, and it's rubbish. We're going to make do with it for now, but it doesn't feel that nice, but it'll do. I also created a pickup class. This can be attached to any object that I want my character to be able to pick up, and he can look at it using a view ray, which I created here, which is called ray casting. It's a very simple technique, really, once you get the hang of that. It shoots a ray in the direction you tell it to, starting from where you tell it to. So I've started it from the camera, shot it straight down the camera's view for a certain distance, 2 meters, 2 units. A meter is a unit. I mean, you can have whatever unit you want, but that's the best way to think about it in Unity, especially when you're dealing with physics. So yeah, I'll just quickly run through this as well. It returns a game object. It either returns null by default, or if this ray hits something that happens to have a pickup attached to it, then it returns that object. So I should change this. I want to start using a different name other than pickup, really. Because pickup almost sounds like the action rather than the item, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? It could get confusing when there's a lot of code. What would be a good word for an item that is pick upable? I'll call it pickable. Pickable item in view. So that's actually a ball, but it's not. It returns a game object, but it's null or a game object. So it's almost like a ball. And I've seen many people doing that as a ball, but that involves a load of other hassle where the game object doesn't, you have to cache a value. It's just not worth it. This is much better in my opinion, the way I've done it. So anyway, that's enough of that. What we're talking about today is static classes, singletons. You can create a static class just here, anywhere you want, and they don't have to be attached to game objects. If you create a static class, I don't often need a static class, but for example, constants. This is one I always used to use. Excuse me. I think with Unity, by the end of it, I did realise it's actually better not to use static classes. It gets a bit confusing. but it's all depends on your own sort of dev style. My computer's running exceptionally slow today. Yesterday it was behaving alright and I wasn't getting any drop frames, and this was loading a bit quicker. So I really don't know what's happening. I'm hoping mono behavior will become blue or green. Otherwise we're screwed, something's going wrong. Ridiculous, isn't it? No IntelliSense again. This never used to happen to... oh, it's done it. Okay, it's just my computer being slow. I was going to say, years ago when I used to use Unity, that was very rare, and it seems to be happening a lot now. Oh, I'm exceptionally worried about this dropping of frames. This video isn't going to be that long, so I'm going to just carry on, and then I'm going to actually go and watch it back and see what it looks like in the recorded version. Luckily with drop frames it's not too bad when it's just text, is it? So if you want to create a static class, it actually can't be a mono behavior, and that means you can't use any of those built-in methods. You could include them, but it doesn't hurt to include them in a static class, and you just define it as a static class. Then everything in here will have to be static. I think there is a way of making it not static, but so you'd have, we already had one constant. I changed it, by the way. If you were watching my last lesson, I had this as a constant, max magnitude, and the only reason I changed that was because when you click your player, I wanted it to appear here, and it seems you can't really have very easily. There is a way of doing it. I used to be able to do it, but I can't remember now how to appear it down there in the sort of serialized data area of the inspector of the character in that script. So that was the reason I just made it a public float. I would have preferred that being a constant, but you know, we're beginners. It's fine that. So I can't think of any constants right off the top of my head, but let's define one somewhere. Or for some reason I should say. I don't think we can have it. Sorry, I keep using the word constant. It's not actually a constant. You can use this, but the thing is, it's been a long while for me since I've done this, and I can't really think of how I used to use these. But they're basically like game world variables. They can change, but I used to use them for ones that didn't change, stuff like max speed and all sorts of things really. I'll just define one just to show it how it's done. Then here, because that's a static class, might need to make this, oh that is static. Now we could just go constants dot max speed. Now that's available globally under the namespace or the class constants. You see, it enables us to have it all in one place. That's the only reason I really needed that. And I'm in fact going to stop using that for now. There we go. So that is a very quick and easy constant or static class that is available globally. You don't need to make an instance of it. That was the whole key to that. I just wrote constants, and then I was able to access that variable directly. All the other, let's see, that's the same. Cursor is the same, but most of the others are not static. Rigid body, you have to create an instance of it to be able to use it. Looks like input is a static class. That's a static method by the looks of it. You can even peek this definition. See if it shows us it. Public static bool, there you go. It's a class. It returns a bool. So there you go. Anyway, let's create a singleton, a game manager. And this will be able to, this will deal with everything. You know, it will have, oh, I remember now in Unity, for some reason, game manager seems to be some sort of protected item. I don't like having this cog thing. As far as I know, that's the only difference. It just makes it into a cog. There's no other difference. But I don't want it there. So I just do game underscore manager. With the game manager, right, we could again make it static. And then we don't have to have a game manager instance, which in the old days when I used to code before Unity was even around, you would never make an instance of a game manager. It would always be static, you know. But with Unity, it doesn't. It makes sense to not have it static, and I can't remember the reason why exactly. But you want to be able to. It allows you to. In fact, well, yeah, that is the reason why. Mono behavior cannot be included on a static class, and this gives you loads of functionality that you end up using. So even just these two methods here, for example, if you want to use, you normally won't use this one in a manager class. Anyway, to make it static, let's see if I can remember this because it's been a very long time. To make it a singleton, you can make a static game manager called instance. So now this is like a cheat. It's a non-static class that is a mono behavior, but it has a static reference to itself, which is public. So in the very start, when it begins, you just do instance equals this. Alright? Now the only bad thing about doing that is that start can get called more than one time in your program. There are times where, again, I'm struggling to think, it's been years, but when you switch scenes, it might call start again. The Unity docs, when I last read them a few years ago, were excellent explaining that anyway. Like start gets called in a certain criteria. It's not always at the very start of the program. There was another one, void. Can't remember it now. I'll have to get the docs out myself to get fully acquainted with it. Start will do for now anyway. There is another one that's very similar to start. I've got all different languages stuck in my head. No, I'm not going to bother with it. It's something we don't need. But to get around what I just said, if start, we only ever want this to be called once. To be defined. We've declared it there. We've defined it here. But we only want it to be defined one time ever. So if instance is equal to null, the instance equals this. else do nothing. Actually, damn it, can't remember. There's one thing like delete instance or something you had to put there. Let me quickly see if I can look it up. It's such a shame. I had a user account on Stack Exchange. So many good answers and questions, but I've lost the login. So this is just one way of doing it. If instance is not equal to null and instance is not equal to this, destroy this.gameObject, else instance equals this. So you don't even need this.gameObject. Oh, that'll do. Right, now our game manager doesn't do a lot right now, but we will need it. When I was lying in bed last night thinking, I had a whole plan for what to do this lesson, and it involved a game manager. But this would do anything. It could do enemy spawning, it would keep how many lives you've got, your score, your network status. If you're a network game player, you'd have a unique ID. You'd have a few other things to make that work. That was where I did make some network games, but wow, they were just hacked together. Anyway, so we have a static instance to our game manager. For now, we'll just have, what can a game manager do, eh? I really wish I had my old projects, because some of them were so advanced it would jump my memory. I'm trying to remember how to get the big int on this. I know it's unsigned int. Why is it so hard to find how to do an int32 in... Can you do int32? System. uint32. I want a really big number. And I want it to be an int. I don't think Unity has it. Oh wait. Oh, so ints are just 32-bit. I've just clicked the question on Unity answers. What the hell is an int or float or boolean? Alright, it says 32-bit. Private uint. So that's an unsigned int. It's even bigger. Score. Note that I put it private. This is all real basic stuff, but it's a way of demonstrating how this class works. Okay, that's ready. It's ready for someone to call it. It's public. We could just create a reference to game manager in our player class if we wanted. We wouldn't need any of this except for score. Wouldn't need that or that. But that would be annoying when you've got hundreds, especially on a network game where you might have 100 players. But even aside from that, you're not only going to be using this for score, you might need it on all your enemies. That's why I've made a static singleton. And this is the beauty of C#, if you ask me. That's very easy for me to understand. In our player, let's just pretend, we're going to delete all of this code and start a new project someday soon. None of this will be kept, but it all applies. Let's just pretend we want to add 100 every time. Or let's use our constants class. I don't think you can do a static constant. You can't. But I wonder, can you put a const in a static class and get it? Let's try. Okay, that looks fine. So we've set up a constants class which doesn't need to be attached to any object whatsoever. It's completely static. Doesn't use any of them right now. I can't remember how to bloody... Oh, yeah, that would do. I absolutely hate that kind of multi-line comment. The flipping hell is going on? It's gone downhill since I last used it, this software. Control Alt A, okay. That's how I like it. So that's it. That's the whole constants class. It just holds constant values. Then we've got our game manager. We don't want to have to make a reference like we did to the rigid body and the camera, the FPS camera. But the way this is set up, it is a mono behavior, so we will need a game object called game manager. This could be called anything again. This might even be called like managers, because sometimes you have a level manager, enemy manager. But I've got just game manager is going to do all of it. Alright, so that's there. It's in our scene. That's all we have to do. Obviously, I mean that's invisible anyway, yeah. You can put that wherever you want. What I used to do is, if it was a manager, I'd just go, just so I know when I'm browsing through. It just helps me know where I am. It's just a shortcut. Because that can be anywhere, that's what I'm saying. So let's just say when we pick up an item, we want the player's score to go up by that constant amount. We could even put it in here. But we have to make a conscious decision now. Do we want to be in the player class or the pickup? I'd say the player class for now. So yeah. How do we do this? Game manager dot instance. So this is what baffles me. How did we look at game manager? It's not static. But we were able to do that, which is great, because otherwise this wouldn't work. Add score, constants, score per pickup. I mean, look, you're pretty much writing English at this point. So ideally we'd want some sort of UI now. That's going to be a different session in the video, because I'm going to try and keep these a bit more short and sweet. I know it's annoying for those watching live if I keep starting, but it's a minor annoyance really than having to mess around with video editing all the time. I wouldn't have time for that. And I think my videos were too long on YouTube. It's going to put people off potentially if I ramble too much. I mean, I expect that these videos won't get very popular anyway. There's lots of great tutorials out there for Unity already. But maybe we can turn this into like an actual fancy looking game, and then it will start getting popular. I'm going to run this. What we're going to do is we're just going to show off a completely stupid way of, because really, like I say, in a game manager class you shouldn't really have update. There's no real reason why you shouldn't. It's just not the done thing. But what we're going to do is we're just going to log the score to the console. Real easy stuff. So that's going to constantly tell us we've got nothing until we pick up an item, and then it should go up to 5,000. And that's going to be the lesson over, or the session over. Not really a lesson, but we have learnt about singletons. We'll have a quick look at the code before we close it down, see if it works first. It's compiled perfectly. The score at the bottom left says 0, if you can read that. And now it's 5k. So yeah, that's the startings of a game already right there. I know you don't normally just get a score for picking things up, but that could have been you shooting an item. Could have been anything. The score might not have been the score, it might have been an inventory item, appearing in your inventory. Do you see what I mean? This is where the static stuff I was talking about just now comes into play. When you want inventory items, you'll have one item in the game world, and then you have to have a corresponding item in your menu for that. You know, they're not the same item. They can be the same item, but they'd have to have two different components inside that item. One for the actual physical 3D world item, another would be a UI item. It's probably best to separate them. There's lots and lots of different ways of doing it. I've done, you know, with inventory. That might come up next. What did I say I wanted to do next? I don't know, but I've got to listen to this back anyway to hear the microphone, so I'll hear that and I'll hear what I said I was going to do next, and I'll do that. And I am considering coming back with the Spectrum as well later today before work. Hi Vulcan. Fascinating. I love it. I'm just about to. Oh, awesome, man! You're up for the pubs game night. I'm well up for that. You know, I should have done it last night, shouldn't I? Being a Saturday. Um, I was just considering in my head about doing I was going to colour in. I'm going to extend that double buffering window it live in a minute and colour it. So that might be you might be interested in that one as well. But thank you for saying hi. I really appreciate that. And I am going to do the pubs game night. I've got a big long list of games written down for that actually now, including Grand National, the racing, and all sorts of things. You know, so it's going to be like a sort of betting themed, stroke pub themed thing. Yeah, like I say, I'll come back very soon. I am more into the specky as well. I mean, there's millions of hours worth of Unity stuff. So yeah, I'm sort of peeing into